Alright, what's going on, everyone? We need to talk about the ban announcement. It was a couple days ago, a few days ago. When is this being posted? I don't know. But I wanted to talk about this because, it's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. Things are weird right now with Standard. So, this was the ban announcement. No changes in Standard. We did get Core Steel Cutter banned and Pioneer, so that's not a bad thing. Modern got hit with a couple bans, also some unbans, which is fun. I was a fan of Violent Outburst like 10 years ago, pre-Modern Horizons, because I played it in Restore Balance. Not much else going on, Popper and stuff. I don't really play these formats anymore. But no changes in Standard is kind of crazy. Everyone was expecting something to be banned because of the endless Badgermole Cub and Izzet decks. Surely something would change. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And the argument for why it wasn't banned is totally reasonable, to be fair. It's what I'm concerned about is I think this is just going to be how Standard is from now on. I'm not going to read this word for word, but basically they go over how everyone thought Izzet Prowess was going to be the best deck, and it was pretty crazy, 30% of day one in terms of metagame share, but it completely fell off because many decks were targeting it. And then it talks about the Selesnya Landfall decks, which won the Pro Tour on the back of Badgermole Cub and, stuff like Mightform Harmonizer. And, the justification for no bans. The story of Pro Tour Secrets of Strixhaven is a common one for this year. We've seen Badgermole Cub decks evolve from Nature's Rhythm to Landfall builds. We've watched Izzet decks get created and gain and lose popularity on their way to coalescing into the current trifecta of prowess, lessons, and spell elementals. It's one of the big issues with Standard right now is technically all of these decks are different. They play very differently, especially spell elementals, which is pretty outside of these two decks. But it's just a lot of the same. Is it kind of burn, card draw? These decks are like 70% the same, with the exception of Lessons, which plays a lot of the same style of cards, but with the Lesson type. But it does feel like it feels very samey when you play Prowess for a game, then you play Lessons, and then your third game you play Spell Elementals, and it's like, is it? And then when you're not playing Izzet, you're playing against some kind of Badgermole Cub deck, whether it's Landfall, whether it's Rhythm, whether it's a Craterhoof, Behemoth, Drool type of thing, right? So it feels very samey, even if technically there's a lot of different decks. We've seen a number of weeks where a particular build of one or the other looked truly dominant, only for the next weekend's tournament to turn the narrative on its head. And this has been very true for competitive Magic, where Izzet will dominate one week, then Landfall will dominate, then Izzet, and it just kind of goes back and forth, where they constantly adjust to each other. And a major reason for that is just the size of the format, right? There's so many cards in Standard that decks are able to adapt and change week to week, which is a good thing, technically. It's also part of the problem, I think, technically. We'll talk about that in a second. But once again, we leave a Standard Pro Tour with a distinct sense that the metagame will continue to evolve from here. Izzet Prowess retaining its title as most played deck appears unlikely given its modest win rate. I disagree with that. It had a modest win rate, which is why it will probably be dominant next week. That was literally what they said in this paragraph. Izzet Prowess expected to do well in upcoming tournaments until these decks, until the Landfall decks adjust, or whatever, the Badgermole Cub decks adjust. Whatever version of Badgermole Cub comes next will then adjust to whatever Izzet Prowess becomes in the next couple weeks, right? It's weird, right? It's a weird format where you have like a couple dominating archetypes and they're just kind of like vying back and forth, which means there's no one dominant archetype. But it also means that there's still just two dominant archetypes over and over and over again. But right here is totally fair. In the Standard format, being thought of as the best deck is usually a good recipe for being beat the very next weekend. These sentences keep kind of contradicting each other, but they're totally fair, right? It is a constant back and forth between these few good archetypes. And given that those decks are continuing to evolve, and players with innovative strategies are continuing to find ways to attack them, it's clear that there is more of this story to tell. So, the issue is Standard is so big that the top decks are, we've seen, adjusting to the metagame. And so the top, like the winning decks of each tournament feels very different week to week. But if you're playing Standard, especially on Magic Arena constantly, it is just the same decks over and over and over again. And while it's true that these top dominant decks are able to adjust pretty well to each other, they're so powerful compared to everything else that it feels like nothing else is really competitive to me. And it's not just these two decks, there's also like the Reanimator decks that show up as well. They don't tend to do as well. And I wonder if there's a list here anywhere. No, this is the Yeah, I don't know. But regardless, yeah, so the problem I have right now with Standard isn't that it's not balanced. It's that it just feels like you have 3 or 4 decks you can play. I guess if you count all the Izzet decks, maybe 5 or 6. There's like 4 Badgermo Cub decks, right? There's the Gruul, Crater Hoof, there's the Rhythm decks, there's this new Selesnya one, which is, look at all these Selesnya mana pips. It's got this, right? And, it's green landfall, even if it's technically white here. So you're either playing this, or you're playing some kind of this, right? So, some version of this. And everything else feels so weak by comparison that you just don't see that much else, especially on like the ladder on Magic Arena. And it does feel like really hard to compete with these things just because they're so, the power level of these decks are so juiced that it's like, well, you're either doing this or you're losing, right? But even this, oh no, there's Jeskai Revelation. Even this, they're saying like, oh, look at this new deck. It's the same Revelation deck that's been in Standard now for, since Dragonstorm released. And yeah, sure, it has Tablet and it has Erode now. But it's still, this deck that you've seen 1,000 times, right? And below this, we have the week after the Pro Tour also saw a rash of success from various Tablet of Discovery powered control strategies. Sure, Standard continues to churn and new decks are finding a way to find success. Not really. This isn't a new deck. This is a Revelation deck that got a new card, right? If we're saying this is a new deck because, there's one new card now and the Revelation deck, I mean, that's just kind of silly, right? I mean, I guess if we're saying this is a new deck because it has a new ramp spell, then sure, I guess. But it just felt very samey. If you're playing in ranked on Magic Arena, how many times can you play against Badgermo Cub again, right? How many times? It's so frequent. And all of this is just the size, right? The format is so big that the top decks are able to adjust. It feels like Modern, where every single week a new deck is on top because there's such a big pool of cards in Pioneer and Modern that decks just have so many tools to tune and adjust to the metagame, which is great for competitive play. It's great for watching competitive play. If you like watching Magic Spotlight Series and Pro Tours and stuff, it is great that you can see these decks kind of evolve and change. Really fun. But if you're playing on Arena, it's just like, oh my god, can I go 3 games without seeing Badgermo Cub and an Izzet deck, please? And it's just like, it's just frustrating. And I don't really know what the solution is, because technically it's not that it's unhealthy. I do think the format's healthy. I think there's a lot of variety in the types of decks you can play. You can play aggro. There's no real mid-range, I guess. Not right now. I mean, there's it's not here. The Revelation decks are kind of controlling, to be fair, but I don't know. I guess these decks are kind of mid-rangey a little bit, so I guess that's kind of fair. Only a little bit though. But I'll say this. I think Pro Magic is really good right now, but I think casual, playing on Magic Arena is very tiring, and it just gets kind of old, right? It just felt kind of old, and it's the size of the format. It's the lack of rotation. It just feels like we need to shake things up a bit, and a ban would have been nice, but I can understand why they didn't, because technically there's no deck that's just completely dominant, but from a player's perspective, it's like, man, I'd love to never see Badgermo Cub again, personally. But, I don't know, just, it's weird. We're in a weird place, and I don't think anything's going to change. And we have, 4 or 5 more sets before rotation happens, so it's only going to get bigger. But I just wanted to talk about that. I don't have a grand ending statement other than the format's weird, and it's technically healthy. They're not wrong, but I am getting tired of playing the same decks over and over and over again, personally, which is a good argument to just play a different format. Go play Pioneer on Magic Arena. Go draft or something. I don't know. Healthy format, but I miss more frequent rotations and smaller Standard, personally. But that's all I have to say about it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.